Hello and welcome to the Meaning Project podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel A. Franz. And as always, thank you for this opportunity to bring a little bit of mental health and meaning to your day. And just let me wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Blessed Kwanzaa, and just joyous holidays for whatever holiday you celebrate. I wish you the best as we come to the end of another year and look to the meaningful potentialities of the next year. I was just taking some time to wrap up 2024 and thinking about, well, what kind of year it's been. And I recommend this for everybody at this time of year. This is a good time to do a little bit of self-assessment, a little bit of, well, looking at some personal growth, or I don't know, maybe some lack of growth, and assessing what you want to do in the coming years. I was sitting here thinking about it. I realized this time last year, I was trying to navigate what it means to have two children in college and away from home. And not just the idea of navigating the holidays and trying to figure out how we would spend time as a family or with each one of them, but also what the financial requirements are when you have two children in college and what Christmas looks like. No more is it a tree full of presents, but more a monthly payout to whatever university they may be at. We still manage to have a good time, and we'll have another Merry Christmas with them both being at home right now. In fact, I think one of them is oddly sleeping on a couch right above me right now. I don't know. I swear they have bedrooms, but as I tell most of the people I work with, many of the parents that I either work with or know personally, it doesn't ever get any easier raising children. It just gets different. And with that, I think we should enjoy every opportunity for those differences. If you're not having fun parenting, you're doing it wrong. Now, look, it's not all fun and games and joy all the time, but it's always a little bit different. And if you're not enjoying it, you should probably be doing something different because parenting truly is a joy and a blessing. And, whether it's your own children or somebody else's, this is a great time of year to enjoy that time together. So this time last year, trying to figure out what it meant to have two kids in college, started the year with some funerals and some birthdays, some 50-year-old birthdays, which sometimes maybe feel like funerals. But, this was the year that I turned 50 and many of my counterparts and peers and close friends turned 50 as well. So another time to sit back and think about not just what this year had meant, but what the past 50 years have meant and what I want to do with the next, well, however many years I have. Often we think of 50 as midlife, even though many of us don't live to 100 these days. I'm not sure how maybe it's two-thirds life. I don't know. Um, but another opportunity to sit back and think about what kind of meaning might be there. Also, in the beginning of this year, I had the awesome opportunity. This is so personal to me. I'm not sure anybody else really cares, but I got to go see my favorite hockey player of all time retire from my favorite hockey team. And one of my daughters got to go with me. That was a good time. The funny thing is, he's actually older than me and still playing hockey. The great Jaromir Jagr, formerly of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and then many other teams, who now plays in Czechoslovakia, came back to Pittsburgh, and that was just so cool to take the time to drive out there and go see. So yeah, a nice easygoing start to 2024. And then I attended my first conference in psychedelic assisted therapy, and it just lit me up. It was great information there, and I just dove into a lot of the books and presentations from the other speakers who were at the conference, and that eventually led me to sign on with the Integrative Psychiatry Institute's extensive and expensive um, training. 250 plus hours started this year and will go into next year for a certification in psychedelic assisted therapy. This was also about the time, I was reflecting on why that course, because I really believe in it and I believe in furthering education. And I think this is I think this will be a disruptor in the mental health field, and I like being a bit of a disrupting force. I don't think mental health right now, as it stands, works for everybody, Um, so I want to do better, and I think psychedelic assisted therapy will do better. But also, that time of the year, I was seeking, searching, maybe. I don't know if I was for sure. I was seeing what else was out there outside of private practice. And I think that was instigated by one of my friends, a gentleman that actually turned 50 at the beginning of the year. His wife said, "Hey, one of the clinics I manage in your area is a little short on staff. Would you be interested in doing some work for them?" And I said, "Well, probably not, but maybe I'll for your sake, for the sake of our friendship, I'll investigate a little bit." So I went about, I don't even know if I sent in an application. I just called her boss, who said, "Yep, here's what we need. We actually need somebody full time to come on and um, see clients who are the employees of the University of Notre Dame. They are a clinic on the university." And I said, "Oh, okay, that would be interesting." And well, it just didn't work out for a variety of reasons, but I understand it's a very busy place. And because it's so busy and so understaffed, really hard to give the quality of care. And again, I talk about being a disruptor in the mental health field. I didn't think that was a place where I could go and do that kind of work. But through that, I had a variety of conversations with the people there, which even led me to talk to the director of the University of Notre Dame's counseling department. And they offered me, after a couple interviews, they offered me an extensive interview, a 2 day long interview, to which, after negotiating some other things, I declined. But during the, you know, during that time of a lot of conversations about what might be and what's out there, I quite, Im I would impulsively clicked a LinkedIn button. Was it impulsive? I don't know. There was some interest there. It was thought out. It was, no, it wasn't impulsive. It's who I am, right? When something looks interesting, I pursue it. Psychedelic therapy looked interesting. I kept going. This button for an app development company focused on mental health and wellness, something about it appealed to me. So I clicked that button. I did the instant LinkedIn application. And before I know it, the next day that it was down. The advertisement was down, and I later found out through my interview with the CEO, Cody Wingert, that when you sign on for a LinkedIn job advertisement, after the first 50 applicants, they shut it down. So I was one of 50 applicants, and Cody gave me a call and he said, "Well, let's have a conversation." And we had a conversation, much like I do here on the podcast. It was just a nice conversation about what he wants to do and what I do and getting to know each other. And he said, "Look, I'm going to probably interview 10 or 20 more of the people of these 50. I'll get back to you." I said, "Sure, no problem. Sounds like an interesting project." My wife, as you know, the idea person, always has ideas for me to take on new jobs and ideas and interests. And she's always saying, "Well, you should really make an app about that." Little did I know what that really entailed. So Cody and I, back around the spring of this year, had a series of conversations. I think I went through 4 interviews with him before he finally called me back and he said, "You know what? I think you're the guy." And I said, "Why? Why am I the guy?" And I actually meant that. I mean, he had been talking to a lot of people, and something along the line, through our conversations, made him feel like I was the guy. And what he said was, it was more than just the interviews, because he went to the podcast, he went to the YouTube channel, and he said, "It's something about this idea of meaning, purpose, and resilience. This idea that it's not just about feelings and emotions and the traditional modern mental health, but you have a message to get out there that coincided with the message he has for Cardion." And so we got to work and we refined the app and we built the app. And I signed on as the chief clinical officer for Cardion. And today we have a pretty cool app out there in beta testing, that hopefully will help a lot of people, a lot of clinicians, a lot of clients, a lot of you out there. And yeah, so I signed on with Cardion this year. That's been kind of cool. Um, I was reflecting just this week in a meeting with some of the other folks at Cardion, how different it is, how different clinical work is from software development. And there's an opposite there that really hit me that I shared that in clinical work, we were talking about what we wanted to do with the app this week, right? How we were going to grow it in 2025, how we're going to improve it. And a lot of my clinician peers said, you know, what do we want it to look like? How do we make it look like this at the end? And we had these big, grandiose visions for what Cardion can look like. And I said, you know what? Here's the difference between us and how our boss and CEO and chief developer Cody thinks. I said, software development is different than anything we do. In therapy, we have a vision for what we want a client to achieve and what we want their life to look like when we're done with therapy, whether it's 8 to 12 sessions or a 6 month or a 12-month therapeutic relationship. We have a goal in mind, and then we fill in the objectives from there. Software development, much to my surprise, is not like that. In software development, at least with Cardion, every 2 to 4 weeks, we are making some minor adjustments, some major adjustments, fixing, honing, getting rid of bugs, and then we release that update and it's a different product. It's something new. We have a vision for it somewhere, but that vision, as we change its trajectory a little bit every 2 to 4 weeks, changes. And there is a grand vision of how we want things to work, but every update, every release changes that. And that's very different from how we think in clinical work. And I thought that was fascinating just to see that difference. It was one of those aha moments that the past year has brought to me. So, hey, go sign up for the Cardion app. That's the purple app, Cardeon, not ION. I'm not sure what that app does. I should probably check it out. The Cardion app. See how it helps your mental health and wellness, and you know, get back to me on it. Let me know what you want to see in the next update or next version of Cardion. So yeah, that was the spring of this year. And then, of course, as I shared with you, the summer, something I had been looking forward to for years. Truly a trip of a lifetime. The Band of Brothers trip, where I got to go with my best buddy and a bunch of other great individuals and men. And we met 30 other great, wonderful people in Europe, all touring and studying the D-Day invasion and yeah, some great World War II history. Oh man, that was such a meaningful trip. I feel like I've shared a lot of trips of a lifetime here. I've been very blessed in working with my daughter's old high school to join them to chaperone their friends and guide them through South America and Greece and Ireland. And then to take this trip again, I feel incredibly blessed. But I also recognize, and I don't want to pat myself on the back too much here, but these are the things that happen when you go out and make meaningful decisions. When my oldest, some, my goodness, 6 years ago now, came to me and said, Dad, my high school history teacher wants to go to Machu Picchu before it shuts down, and I really want to go. And the first thing I thought was, oh my God, that's going to be so expensive. There's no way. And I quickly shut that down and I said, when is it? Said 2 years, 2 years, a year and a half. It was a long way out, at least a year. And and we can make it happen a little bit by little bit. We can pay monthly. I said, all right. And they were going to do fundraising. She was willing to work for it. And I said, all right, we'll find a way to make that happen. And I went to the information meeting and we learned all about it. And then I took a leap. I made a meaningful decision I didn't know this history teacher. He seemed like a nice guy, former service member. I believe he was in the Army. And so, I appreciate and respect that. And I got home that night and I emailed him. I said, Mr. Haas, I want to be a chaperone. I've coached these girls and many of these students, the females, in soccer for years. I know them. I'm a psychologist. I'm a therapist. Who better to chaperone this group through Lima, Peru, and South America and the Amazon River. And he said, you know what? You're right. You can be the third chaperone. I thought, third chaperone? What do you mean? Who's more qualified? He said, my wife. My wife is more qualified than you because she wants to go. And I said, with much respect, I said, got it. And so I jumped on board and I helped with some fundraising. And in the end, we had enough kids. I had to pay a little bit to go. And my daughter went and we had an amazing time. And he said, you know what? Next trip I want to do is Greece. And my other daughter said, well, I want to do a trip. And then he took a new job and he couldn't go. So I had to chaperone. I had to lead the entire trip. And then after that was Ireland because, well, he had set that up and nobody else wanted to do it. So it was work trying to get 15 kids through the Toronto International Airport while Canadian Air was a mess. Put me in Boston at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out how to get those kids to Chicago. So still a meaningful trip. Wow, there was some suffering involved. But back to 2024. Sorry, I'm reminiscing a bit. I hope 2025 and the future brings meaningful travel experiences for you, your family, and maybe even for a group of local high school students in your area. Um, so yeah, a great time through Europe. Three of us gentlemen invited our wives to meet us out in Switzerland because one of the couples had been stationed there for several years and they knew the lay of the land. And we had a wonderful and meaningful time there. And what a great few weeks. So again, my belief that, well, Dr. Frankl Logotherapy's belief that travel is certainly meaningful. Um, my belief is something, I mean, you got to work for it, right? You can't just decide one day I'm going to go on a Band of Brothers tour throughout Europe. It takes, I mean, we took several years to plan for it, to pay for it. My best buddy, you know him as the Running Man, is, I mean, look, if you know anybody that is frugal, he is frugal beyond frugal, maybe even a little bit of a tightwad, a master budgeter. Um, so yeah, he made that happen for him and his family. We made it happen for ours. And if there are things, I'm a big believer. If there's something out there you want to do, someplace you want to see, there's a way to make it happen. And that's meaningful. So we did that trip, and wouldn't you know it, as soon as I got back, before I got back, while I was in the air on the way home, the Integrative Psychiatry Institute had its 2-day intensive to kick off our cohort number 7, the 7th group in the past 3 or 4 years to begin and work to complete the IPI psychedelic assisted training. So as soon as I touched down, I had to get on a laptop and boy, we were tired. Holy cow. How did that happen? My buddy and I, we were the last ones back. Everybody else had the same flight, but because we traveled differently, we were the last ones back. Got into Indianapolis International Airport at midnight. His son wonderfully, thank goodness, picked us up and then started driving us home. We got sideswiped by a speeding car on the way home, which really woke us up. And then, yeah, got to his place, took a nap, and drove home to begin the IPI training. And I had no idea what I was in for. As you've heard me say, that training has been intensive and extensive, amazing and beautiful. Several hours every week engaged in lecture and dialogue and conversation and planning for learning what it means to administer and integrate and prepare people for psychedelic assisted therapy. And I went out to the school a few months ago, this fall, and had a amazing therapeutic group experience in ketamine. That group and I are still in contact, and you'll be hearing from some of those individuals here in future months in 2025 as they come on the podcast and talk about their work, not just in psychedelics, but their work in general. They're amazing people that I can't wait to introduce you to. We've got some great guests coming next year as well that I've been courting and signing up. So some changes to the podcast, maybe even some more consistency. Um, yeah, had a great time there, meaningful, that will continue. September of this year was the September of music with my daughter and I. Some great concerts, meaningful concerts. The Avett Brothers in Indianapolis, Hans Zimmer, the great soundtrack musician in Chicago, And then a little known band, I thought a little known band, a 90s band named Soul Coughing got back together. And my brother and I, who listened to them in the 90s, decided that we wanted to go see them. And my daughter said, Dad, seriously, let's go back to Pittsburgh. So we went back to Pittsburgh and jammed to Soul Coughing and then got back to work with the IPI and Cardion and psychedelic assisted therapy. And through all of this, I continue to have this idea I've had for years. And if you follow me on social media, LinkedIn or Facebook, you've seen hints and teasers for it, for a meaning project community. Um, I with the other things I do in life and the travel I have for school and personal means, there are times I take breaks from the podcast. I need to take breaks from the podcast. And sometimes maybe you miss that. And so I was thinking about a way, how can I continue to help more people in bigger ways, but also for this podcast to have greater reach. And so today, this week, next week, this year, wrapping up this year and going into next year, I will release the Meaning Project Community. I think that's going to be the name. It sounds good right now. It may change, but an opportunity for us to connect. How I've been conceptualizing, maybe a way to disrupt modern mental health and get people the help they need, get them doses of meaning, purpose, and resilience in different ways, not just in my office one-on-one every day, every week, but here using video, using modern technology in ways that we can interact with people, not just nationwide, with worldwide. I've found out that I have a small following in Australia, and you heard in a previous podcast, Mark from Tattoo Pathways, and I'll be on his podcast with his lead researcher here soon. So very excited for that. I believe that will be going into 2025. But yeah, some just meaningful things have happened in 2024. So I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to reflect on it. I would encourage you to take some time this holiday season and reflect on your 2024. And as you get ready to, you can either set resolutions or come up with words or plan your SMART goals for next year. But I've shared with you what mine are, and I've hinted at them throughout this podcast, right? Cardion is going to improve and grow with your help, I hope. Please go download the app. Fool around with it during the holidays. Now, don't be on your phone too much this holiday season, but if you are, see what Cardion has to offer. Keep an eye out for the Meaning Project community. That's going to be a low price point, easy entry, regular opportunity to interact with me and other meaning seekers, people that want to find out, kind of a variation of this year's Viktor Frankl Meaning Academy. We saw that come into existence and then, pass away in a way where, B went off to do his own thing that I'll still be a part of. And I'm kind of doing my own thing with the Meaning Project community. So keep your eyes out for that. I hope you'll join, and I hope we'll have different ways to interact on a regular basis. So we got Cardion, we got the Meaning Project community, and of course, this is so cool. I can't believe I almost forgot. So, I've been working in ketamine assisted therapy. For those of you that have been to my office recently, I've moved some things around, made some greater space. We'll be getting new furniture so that I can begin to administer ketamine lozenges, doing a different kind of therapy in my office. As I've shared before, there are different ways to administer ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. Some ways are through intravenously, intramuscular, through needles and injections, but there are also lozenges that are more of what we call a psycholytic dose, not a full psychedelic dose. There are still opportunities for interaction and exchanges with these lozenges. So I'm looking forward to bringing that into my office here in Farmville, Indiana, but then to offer various retreats. We'll be running our first retreat for clinicians here in a few weeks, and then we'll open that up in different ways to the general population. So Cardion, community, ketamine, and other psychedelic assisted therapy. Those are my professional and yeah, those are personal goals as well. I can't wait. Can't wait. I'm working on it now. I can't wait to see it come to fruition in 2025. And as I mentioned, and we've already had some people volunteer to sponsor, my unique personal goal, my truly personal goal next year is 100 miles. Ugh, I said it again. That makes it real, right? Um, I will be doing an MS ride in honor of those people that I know that suffer and struggle from multiple sclerosis. And I will train for 50. There is a box right over there. Another meaningful box. After making that statement a few weeks ago, I said I better get serious about this. People started to say, you know what, we want to be a part of this. We want to sponsor you. We want you to achieve this. We want you to quit talking and go out and do the work of planning for 100 miles, of training for 100 miles. So I really debated, man, do I just put my bicycle, do I bring it into the basement and put it on a trainer, which involves buying a trainer and new tires and sweating on the carpet, whatever it might. Um, and I went back and forth and I talked to some other people that use these bike trainers. And eventually I said, man, I've always thought about one of those Peloton bikes. And then I went and got on the Peloton website and I thought, my God, those are expensive. Um, and, looked around and did the research and found a far less expensive variation of one of those cool gym bikes. So that is waiting to be put together and used right now today. So maybe that's part of today's work so that I can start training. And if if you I don't want to hang this over your heads, but if you jump on and support me, I will push myself to do 100 miles. I'll plan on doing 50, maybe even 75. We'll see how the training goes. But if you will support me in supporting multiple sclerosis research, I will push myself to 100 miles. It looks like it'll be the beginning of June of this year in a beautiful area of the country. So keep an eye out for that. I have to get signed up for that. But first, I want to make sure I can actually ride a mile before I ride 100 miles, right? So that's 2024 as a wrap for me. And my goals for 2025, the Meaning Project community, Cardion, ketamine, and other psychedelic assisted therapy, and 100 miles. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward. We all know that we can have expectations for what the year will bring, but who knows what that might look like. As always, I'm excited to share it with you, to share my experience and to know more about yours, and to do the work that I can do, that we can do together to make sure that we all have a meaningful 2025. So once again, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Blessed Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays, whatever you might celebrate. And here is to a meaningful 2025. As always, thank you for this opportunity to bring a little bit of mental health and meaning to your day and to your year. Thank you.